We're all searching for it, or people. The ones you can call when you're at the end of your rope. The ones you ask for advice in a difficult stage or deciding on which jeans to buy. The ones who you share dreams and hopes with, who get you to the gym and love your kids like their own. Motherhood was never meant to be a solitary role, and now it doesn't need to be. Here we discuss everything from our favorite kidisms to mental wellness to our best mom hacks and more. Mamas are world changers, and it's time to stop bearing that responsibility alone. So whether you're driving carpool, rocking a sleeping baby, or doing dishes, we're here for you. Welcome to the village. Welcome to episode 11 of the Village podcast. I'm Missy Allred, your host. This is a very special episode today. My friend Jen let me record our coaching call together, and I'm so excited to give you this peek into what coaching looks like, the kind of work we can do, and just how helpful it is to just talk with someone and be able to really figure out what you want and how to get it. So without further ado, here is my coaching call with Jen. All right. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Things have been pretty good.
Okay, in the little questionnaire I sent you, you said that you feel like you're never doing or being enough and you want to feel more confident in motherhood. So tell me a little bit more about this first one.
Okay.
What do you feel like you're not doing enough? What aren't you being enough of?
I feel like I'm never on top of anything. And so it just feels like I can't seem to get like this routine down. I feel like everything's such a mess. Everything's a mess nonstop. And I feel like I just can't get enough things done throughout the day. Or I feel like I just don't do enough for my kids, and separating that job between motherhood and taking care of the house and stuff. But then you have being a wife, and it's like trying to find that somewhat balance, even if it's not perfect balance, but somewhat of a balance of spending time with them and keeping up with the house and spending time with your husband and doing the things for them that they need. And so it just makes it feel like I am just not doing enough for my kids. I don't feel like enough because I'm just not doing all the things that I feel like I should be doing or that I want to be doing. I did notice too, my oldest, we've actually been struggling with him a lot. And I've definitely like changed my thought process on that, like my mindset around it and how my husband and I talk about it. Instead of he's being so difficult lately, it's just been like, it's been really hard with him lately, or like we're having a really hard time lately, rather than he's being difficult, because he's not purposely being difficult, but it's been rough. And so we've been like trying to figure out what he needs and trying to think about like maybe he needs some one-on-one time because he's the oldest. And so it's like it's not just us and him anymore. There's two others that,
Especially with a baby who
yes, who takes up
actually
a lot
needs
of
your
time.
help to do anything.
Yeah. And it's like I know as much as he loves like his younger siblings, like I think he needs that one-on-one time for it to be just focused on him and what he needs and what he wants. I start to notice like I say no to him a lot because it's like, no, we can't. Huck's in sleeping, or no, we can't because we have to make dinner, or no, we can't, it's like we can't do all these things that he wants to do a lot.
Yeah, I totally get that. I love that you're looking at what is he trying to communicate? What is it that is missing that he needs? Because I
Yeah.
think that's going to make a big difference when you figure it out. And that's
Yeah,
the hard part.
definitely.
Okay, how can you, instead of saying no, how can you spin it to say yes? So instead of no because the baby's sleeping, yes when the baby wakes up. And just see
Yeah.
if that language helps both of you. This is one I've actually been working on myself too, because I find myself saying no and then I go like, why did I say no? It's really not that big of a deal. Or it just feels like I'm saying it so often. So it's still the same outcome, same timeline, right? But saying yes feels a little bit better for everybody. So that's something you could try.
Yeah.
So you talked about that you don't feel like you have time to
be a mom, to have time with the kids, to have time with your husband, to do all the housework, to do all the things you need and want to do with your kids, and that you can't seem to stay on top of things, but then you feel so behind that you can't seem to put in systems so that you can stay on top of things. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Okay. What would be enough time with your kids? Like, how would you know that it was enough?
that's hard. I don't know. It's hard to say like a time. I guess more of like a feeling of like, okay, I felt like we've spent good time together, you know? And
Yeah.
I have been really looking at like the quality of the time over they don't really want you there. It's not like they really actually want you to be with them 24/7.
Mhm.
It's that they want you to like be attentively in that moment. And so I definitely struggle with that where I'll go to do something with them and then I see like, oh, their toys need to be picked up or while we're doing this and it's like, oh, this needs to be done. So I'm like half paying attention or half playing, but then I'm also like, okay, well, while since I'm sitting on the floor, let's do this, sort of
Yeah.
thing. And so it's like trying to get my mind to focus and like, okay, let's just focus on just doing this with them. I think I need more structure. Like I want to create more structure for my kids. And this is something I've never really done is somewhat of a schedule for the day
Mhm.
of like, okay, in the morning we'll do Play-Doh and then later you guys can watch TV and then later you guys can do this. It's like I've never really done that with my kids. And so I think that's something that like I've wanted with them is to like have that time to be like, okay, let's kind of have some structure because I think it would help my brain, but I feel like I can't figure out how to do it. So then I just don't do it. And then I feel like, well, I'm just not doing enough with them. And, I'm just not doing what I should be with my kids.
I think there were two really big things in here. One is taking the time to actually just sit down and create that schedule. And we can totally do that. But I want to first focus on this other piece because I think it's going to help with the scheduled, structured side. So, the first thing you were talking about is that it's more of a feeling and not a time
Yeah.
to feel like it's enough with your kids. And I'm sure the same thing with your husband. It's a feeling that we're seeking, it's not a certain time because you could be spending 3 hours a day or 10 hours a day solely focused on your kids and you could still feel like it's not enough.
Yeah.
So what is the feeling that you are chasing?
I guess it's hard to describe. Like, I don't know exactly what it would be of
Well,
like,
okay, tell me a little bit about it because it's definitely hard to like here is my one word feeling
yeah,
that I'm
explanation.
going
Like,
for, but describe
yeah,
it a little bit.
feeling like I don't want to say accomplished, not like, oh, I checked that off my list of like spend time with my kids, but it does feel kind of like, okay, we did that. Like I accomplished something through the day, like I accomplished time with you guys and we did it together. And I know that like, I don't know, that feels like an accomplishment sometimes to like sit down and play
Yeah.
a game with the kids because sometimes that's like so hard to do. But just like that feeling of connection with them and feeling like I really connected with them and connected with like who they are and tapped into some of that, like figuring out kind of like their personalities, things that they like to do. And I love when I do something or do something with them, you see them really excited, of like, oh wow, they really like to do this. Like you really like puzzles, you really like problem solving, things like that. I think that feeling of like connection with them is what I think I'm missing. And so then it makes me feel like I'm not doing enough with them.
Yeah. Okay, so a few things I kind of pulled out: accomplished, connection, which really could be the other word I wrote with that was personal.
Hmm.
So I mean like personal connection.
Yeah.
Right. But it seems like it's more than just because you can connect as a group, but you want to connect to them and who they are. I said fulfillment. Does that feel right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the other
That's
one that came to mind was discovery.
Yeah, I really like that as a
Okay.
description. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any one of those that stands out as the main one or the one you want to focus on? Because I think all of them are true, but
Yeah. I would say the top two would be like fulfillment and connection,
okay.
because I think that would fulfill me as well as them, like my needs as well as theirs. And so I think that is a good one because it kind of goes both ways. And I really started to notice recently that I try not to tell my kids you should play this way, or when they dress up as something and you're like, well, firefighters don't really do that. I try to not say that because, like, who cares? They're just imagining. But I realized that, like, from me, where it felt like I was always like teased or made fun of as a kid for being lost in my own little world and having like such a big imagination, that I have suppressed that so much that it's made it hard for me to like be imaginative with my kids.
Mhm.
And then
You're probably
with
trying to protect
them,
them too.
yeah. So then with them, it's like, I feel like I'm trying to like make them play correctly or a certain way. I don't want to do that. Like, I love that they have this like crazy imagination and they always create and decide these crazy different things. And so it's like trying to, or realizing that I'm doing that. It has been like very eye-opening.
Yeah. Why do you want your kids to have an imagination?
I think it's just so important for them moving forward in life because you have to have an imagination to create whatever life you want. And to be able to like imagine what you want your house to be like even simple things of like, oh, what you want when you get married or what you want your house to be like, or like just seeing the joy in things. I feel like imagination creates a lot of joy for kids, and so seeing the joy and happiness in things.
Yeah. Imagination for adults is obviously going to look different than it does for kids.
Yeah.
But how do you or how can you cultivate that in the season that you're in right now?
Hmm. That's an interesting question. I don't know. Creating, I guess, like moments for them to be able to be like creative and imaginative. Like my son is really into like crafts. Like he wants to do like craft time a lot. And so he likes to create things. And so I think that is something that would be, and I've realized that I like that a lot too. Like creating designs for shirts and different things like that brings me so much happiness because I get to have an imagination. And so
Yeah,
I think that is something that I love doing. And then he enjoys like watching me do that. And so connecting with him over that sort of thing.
I love that. That feels like something that you could do together of let's go create together. Here's going to be my thing. I'm going to go create and here's crayons and paper, whatever it is that he likes to do with his
Mhm.
own creations. Like let's go do that together. I just think that there are ways to put ourselves into motherhood that doesn't just have to be what we think we're expected to do. And it doesn't just have to be like what our kids want to do all the time. Maybe you don't like to pretend play, and that's still within like the imagination realm, but
Mhm.
you do enjoy the art things. So, like, that's still cultivating the same things within your kids, but you can do it in a way that is geared towards something that you enjoy and they enjoy, and you get to flex that creativity muscle just a little bit. And I just think that's such a gift that we can give our kids, that we can be doing things together and we don't have to take ourselves out of motherhood, and we don't have to do it the same way as other people either.
Yeah. And I, even from watching, like, I think I was pretty sure it was one of your posts, and it was saying, like, you don't have to be every single type of mom because we want to be the mom that bakes and cooks and does crafts and always has the holiday stuff and always does this, and it's like we feel like we're supposed to do all of these many different things where I'm like, oh, I would love to start making homemade bread, or I would love to start doing this. And then I start looking into it and I'm like, that's too much for me right now. Like, that's really not for me right now. You just see all of these things that people are doing and you're like, okay, well, I should be able to do that too, but don't have to be all these different types of moms at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of mom do you want to be? What's important to you?
I think just being like I want to say attentive, but that's not really like the word I'm looking for. Like in tune to them.
Hey, I like that.
So like in tune to who they are and what they need. And not that it will be perfect all the time, but at least trying to figure out like the things that they like to do. And rather than being like, oh, that's great, but let's probably go towards this instead. Because I definitely had that too. Is like just being in tune with them.
That's great. Let's focus in on that because I mean, of course there's like a million things that you could say and are important to you, but if like that's the big things that's coming up, let's do that and let's create if you're still wanting to create a schedule, then we can do it around this being in tune with your kids and helping them like it kind of comes back to like that discovery thing, right? That then leads to the connection and fulfillment that you are looking for, right? So like with
Mhm.
your kids, it seems like you're leaning more towards the creativity, imagination, being in tune, discovery side, which leads to your fulfillment and connection. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah, that does.
Okay. Remember that these are all just feelings and we can
Yeah.
create things. Okay. You don't have to do anything. You can be that, right? You can feel that anytime you want. Would it be more helpful to create a schedule together that makes room for this time to be in tune with your kids, time to let them be creative and figure out what they want and be able to still do all the things that are on your to-do list that are part of your job? Or would it be more helpful to figure out how to create these emotions of connection and fulfillment no matter what?
I think probably the first,
Okay.
because I was thinking, as you said that too, I was even thinking like, have something for them where it's like, okay, I spend a little bit of time with them, either showing them what to do, like if it's like a specific thing we're making, or, just spend some time with them doing it and then just let them go and do their thing with it and like go ahead and create and do whatever they want and do their like independent play while I go and do something else. Like still close, like washing
Yeah.
dishes or folding laundry or whatever, where it's like I still am there with them, but just kind of spending the time and then letting them go and kind of do their thing.
Yeah. And something like that, it can totally depend on the day. If you're like, I'm good, I'm caught up, or really more than anything, I would just like to hang out with them, then that's what you do. And if you have things to do, then you set things up for them and you can go do the things on your list, but you're still being that mom, that creative mom, right? You still
Yeah.
get to put that into it, even if you're not there the whole time, but you can choose day to day, right? Or even moment to moment if you're like, actually, I would rather be with them than vacuuming. Like, go do
Yeah.
that. And some days you're going to be like, I am going crazy and I just need to clean the house. So I feel like my brain is a little bit less chaotic so that for the rest of the day, I can be more present with them. And that's okay, right? This doesn't have to be a forever steadfast rule,
Yeah.
right? It can change every time.
Yeah, as Huxton gets older, my youngest, as he gets older, that's going to make a lot of things a little bit easier where he can actually sit and play more by himself and do things like that. So figuring out what we can do while he's asleep or while he's occupied, and then I get to do something with them.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a great part of having young kids, and it can also feel really frustrating that you constantly have to be adjusting
Yeah.
because you're in a new season so often.
Yeah.
Especially with a baby where those seasons are quicker, right?
Yes, definitely.
But also,
what
like,
you're
it's a great
getting into.
opportunity to reevaluate and be able to adjust as needed rather than feeling like you're stuck in this routine that you've had for a really long time. It is changing constantly. Totally depends on the
Yeah,
moment, and it depends
I
on how you see it, you know?
I definitely, yeah, feel like the quote I've seen that's like, "I love routine until I get bored, and then I love being, what is it, spontaneous until I get stressed out, and then I need routine." And I'm like, I am definitely that person where I'm like, "Oh, I love a good routine." And then I'm like, "I'm so sick of this." So then I just don't do it. And then I'm like, "I'm so stressed out and this is overwhelming." So then I go back to a routine.
Yeah. So it seems right now you're in a place where it's time to get back to a little bit more of a routine,
Yeah.
and that would be helpful.
Yeah. And even if it's not like, yeah, like I don't need anything that's like set in stone. We do this at 9 a.m. and this at 10 a.m. And it's like, I don't need anything like that, but I definitely need something that's like slightly more structured.
Yeah. So what are you doing right now? Or do you have it's just kind of all up in the air? Or do you have a little bit of a
It's like,
structure right now?
I would say very little. Like I was getting up, my husband and I have been getting up at 6:30 and doing like yoga or some sort of like physical activity. So we were doing that together. And then the kids usually get up at 7, and then we do like breakfast and school drop off. And then my youngest has his nap at 10. And I think that's where I don't really have a set time for his other naps just because our days are always like so busy and we're always in and out of the car. But
Yep.
um,
Those poor younger
you know,
kids that just get
yes. And I'm the
dragged
youngest. So
around
I'm
and they
like,
just
yeah,
yeah,
I'm like, this was totally me as a baby. I got
yeah.
drug around in the car everywhere. So, but then my middle, it's like I don't have any structure for her because she's not in school yet, but she's not a baby. She's not taking naps. So it's like I'm playing with her in between his wake and nap times, but then also trying to clean the house. And so it's like I feel like with her, she'll start transitional kindergarten in August. So then that'll give her something to kind of do during the day. But until then, I'm like, I feel like I need something, especially with her in between this time, because she's always like, when is Weston getting home from school? Like, I
Mhm.
need somebody to play with. And so it's kind of hard to find this like structure with her during the day where she's not napping. She doesn't have specific meal times, different things like that.
With your middle, we need a little bit of something to give her so that she has something to look forward to and you have a little bit of an idea of how the day's going to go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. I said the long version of
No,
that.
no, you're just fine. You're just fine. I think it totally helps. Like, I think that's one of the greatest things about coaching is sometimes I just need to get everything out of my head to be able to see the bigger picture.
It
Right?
actually makes
And I
sense.
think
Yeah.
sometimes it takes somebody else being like, okay, so this is what you want to be like. Yes, that's exactly what I
Oh,
want.
yeah. That sounds so simple.
That's how I am too. Like, I need to say so many things so that I can understand what I'm actually thinking. Okay.
Yes.
So, what's worked in the past for you, schedule wise? Of have you really liked anything that you would want to try again? Like, if you tried like block schedules, or do you just more need like a, okay, we are going to spend 30 minutes doing this kind of thing around this time, like after we eat lunch or as soon as the baby goes down for his first nap or something like that that's kind of structured, but it's more like a sequential structure rather than an
Yeah,
exact.
I think that would be better for me, especially with like school and sports and all the crazy
Yeah.
stuff that we have going on. So I think that would be better. And for me too, I think that would work better for my brain is to just
Right.
have like, okay, roundabout this. And also too, like I feel like if I put too much structure on myself or too much pressure on myself to be like, this is what we're going to do at this time, is then I stress that I'm not perfectly doing my schedule.
Mhm.
So something that's a little bit more lenient would be definitely better for me.
Okay. Okay. I like don't want to give you too many things either, right? So
Yeah.
trying to keep it really simple. Were you still, because it seems like you like having lenient structure. I don't know.
Yeah,
The
I
word
guess
that
that
came
would
to mind
make
was
sense.
chaotic structure, but like it's not that. It's a
Yeah,
little bit
that's
less.
me.
We want less chaos, but something
Yeah.
along those lines, right? Where it can be like very fluid, but there's still
A little bit of
boundaries.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to give you like an idea, something that's not going to overwhelm your brain, because I think if you have too much structure, that's overwhelming, but too little is also overwhelming because there's too many possibilities. So we need to
Yeah.
find somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So
So I think having something that's just kind of like, okay, so we'll make breakfast and then clean up and then give her her time, like 20, 30 minutes to have her pick something to do, like play a game or do a puzzle or whatever, and then give her like a little bit more structured, like let's work on colors and letters or different things like that.
give me a little bit of a timeline of like when this would be. Is this all during while your older son is at school is kind of what we need to fill, or just like a couple hours is where things get really crazy and that's what we want to focus on?
Yeah, I think it's more, yeah, time when he's at school, like especially the morning block. The afternoon is more filled with like, like lunchtime and a little bit of play and then getting ready to go pick him up, basically. And so I feel like the like 9 to like 11 noon, somewhere around those hours is where I need to like fill this time with her, where I feel like I'm always either like, okay, yeah, let's play a game or grab puzzles or whatever. And then I'm like, okay, sure, you can play on your tablet because I got to get this done. So it's kind of like she doesn't really have this where she's usually just like, okay, can I do this? Like she
Yeah.
doesn't have any sort of idea what's happening
So it
or
seems like
something
this is
to
when you
expect.
try and get like household chores done too. Is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what are we trying to fit in and how long do we have? But I also want you to see, like, you gave me like a 2 to 3 hour block.
Yeah.
But that tells me that the rest of the time you really are doing good. You have this block that feels a little bit crazy, and we can totally work with that. I mean, even if it was a whole day, we could work with that too. But
Yeah.
just notice that it feels like it's the whole day, but it's really just like
A few
this
hours.
little window.
Yeah.
Like hopefully that feels a little bit more doable of like I can handle a window. We're gonna
It
figure this
does.
out,
Yeah.
right?
Because I know like once I do afternoon hits, like 12:30, 1 o'clock, okay, we've had lunch and then we have like an hour after lunch and then I have to get ready to go get him. And then after school is like homework and dinner and then practice if it's one of those days. And so it's like
And there's your
the
whole
list
day.
that's all filled. Yeah. So it doesn't feel a lot better being like, oh, I only have to fill like 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Would you rather have a little bit of everything every day? So like a little bit of time with your daughter, a little bit of chores, like one chore a day, or would you rather have, okay, here's a chore day. On this day, we're going to do something creative. On this day, we're going to do like more of a learning activity type of thing.
I think it would be good to do a little bit of everything, or at least do like something with the house plus something with them every day, just because I know if I don't do it for even a day, it's just pure chaos
Yeah.
because they destroy everything in like 10 minutes. So,
Yeah. Totally get it. Okay. Okay. This is good, right? We're figuring out we need a little bit of
yes.
both. That would feel more balanced in this season. Okay, so you said breakfast and cleanup would kind of be the first thing.
Yeah. And I think it would be good. I could split up, like do a little bit of a learning day and then the next day do something just more like play. Then I'm not trying to plan a learning thing for every single day, hence why I don't want to homeschool.
Well, and you can totally have her lead too of like really just flat out ask her like, what do you want to learn about today? And maybe you have one day like that. Like if you go every other day or something, you could have one day that's more structured and one day that's more open-ended of what does she want to learn, whether that's something that she specifically says or just start listening to what she says in passing
hmm
and dive into that a little bit more. Like my oldest son started asking about states and our country. So that afternoon I was like, all right, we're going to pull out a map and we're going to
Yeah.
look at right and just start listening. Like they're asking questions that we can totally guide that learning with and things that they're interested in, and maybe that lasts for 10 minutes and maybe they have more and more questions and that's 3 days worth of activities, right? But yeah, you can kind of still have some structure and some open-ended even with that too of,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's good.
well,
That makes
whatever
sense.
you want that way, but like there's just some ideas where like even if you have 2 or 3 learning days a week, you still don't have to make it this fully structured. All right, and now we're going to learn about this letter. I mean,
Yeah.
sure work on some of that, but like let her lead some of that too and figure out. You were saying earlier that you wanted to be more in tune with your kids and their interests, and like that's a great way to do it where you're totally capable, like even if you don't want to homeschool, like that's totally something that you are 100% capable of, is listening to what those little cues that they're probably giving all the time. And once you hear it, you're gonna be like, man, we've got learning opportunities for weeks.
Yeah.
All these
Like
things
so
that
many
they're
things.
interested in.
Yeah, no, that's really good too. Yeah. And I think doing this too will make me feel like I'm doing, I guess, like me feel enough. I don't feel like enough. I feel like that's such an open-ended. It's so hard to explain like exactly why or what I don't feel like enough of that. But I think it's just like combination of I feel like I'm not doing enough and I feel like I'm not doing enough with my kids. Or I think too it makes it hard when they struggle with something, like they're going through something and you're like trying to figure out what is even happening or what's going on. Like that's kind of with my oldest right now is it seems to be these like big outbursts where it's like just all of a sudden and you're like, I don't even know what's happening. Like I feel like I was so calm in that situation, yet he got so upset. And so it's like trying to figure out like what this stage is, what this phase is, what is happening, and I think that I guess just as moms, we always just put it on us as like, well, what am I doing wrong or what am I not doing that I'm not helping them, trying to, it's just instant like on us for some reason. We do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because we feel responsible for them. But we're also trying to figure out our own emotions and thoughts too, that it's hard. It's so frustrating on our end when they don't have the language, but when it comes down to it, neither do we. So many
Yeah.
times where we need that help. Sometimes it just takes those consistent conversations and asking questions and giving them ideas of what it even might be.
Yeah.
Where your son is probably old enough that you could say things like, are you needing more one-on-one time? Like,
Do you
would
need me
it
more?
help? Like,
Yeah.
what if we went and did this on Saturday, or, something like that? Giving him those options where he's old enough that he can be like, yeah, that's what I need.
Yeah.
He just he may not realize that.
Realize that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, until we present the opportunity.
Yeah, definitely.
With being enough, like you were talking about just a second ago, enough is not quantifiable. You can't be like, oh, I've reached enough. Like there it
Yeah.
is. We hit that
Yeah, totally.
milestone, check mark. And so
Right.
we never get there. And so sometimes all it takes is going, what is enough? Like let me give a quantifiable something to this so I can even have something to measure it by.
Yeah, like what is enough for that day? What?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that it can totally be different each day. And understanding again that all we're trying to do is reach for an emotion.
Yeah.
And that is completely within our control at all times because that comes from the way we're thinking about things. And so if you tell yourself that this time to create or learn with your daughter is enough, then it will be. And you can say,
Yeah.
yeah, yes, I checked a box, but also I feel fulfilled. I feel connected to her. I feel like I understand her more and that I'm creating these memories with her and she'll get to look back and be like, yeah, I learned all of this with my mom and she took the time to learn with me. And
Yeah.
that's the things they're going to remember because that's the things that we focused on and we're in the right energy in that moment. So the right thoughts and emotions were behind our actions.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. No, I really like that. That all makes sense. Helps what everything that I was thinking and feeling makes a lot more sense.
Good.
Helps
Okay.
explain everything that was happening in my brain that I couldn't figure out what it meant.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Do you feel like you have a little bit more of an idea of what you want your schedule to be now during that morning block?
Yes. Yeah. Also realizing that like it doesn't have to be perfect. So I was just putting on there of like, okay, so we'll do like breakfast and cleanup. Well, I mean, I don't really have to put drop off on there because
It just
that's
is.
a given every single day. But, we'll do like breakfast, school drop off, and then clean up, and then doing like a learning or free play, or not free play, but like more like play activities. And then it'll be like nap time, and then kind of like snack and clean up as well. So like I can get her snack because I gotta get this girl a snack schedule because she's asking for them 10 million times a day. So doing kind of like a snack and then give myself some more time to clean up something else, maybe, whether it's like some toys or laundry or whichever. And so just getting like picking something for that day of what's needing to be done.
Yeah.
That'll be kind of like a morning thing, and whatever else happens or gets done in that morning will be great.
Yeah. Both you and your daughter have more of an idea of, okay, here's how the morning is kind of going to go. We can plan for it. We can be excited about it. And when she comes to you with like, "Mom, I want to do this." You can say, "That sounds great. We can do it tomorrow during our learning time," or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. But then, like we were talking about at the beginning with turning no's into yeses, like that gets to be your yes,
Yeah.
even when the time isn't right. How are you feeling with this schedule, everything we talked about?
That feels a lot better. It helps me feel like I have an idea in my head of how I can actually spend time with them. Because at first it just felt like I want to and I feel like I need to, and that's what they need and I want to do that with them. But it just felt like there's no time. Like I don't have time to do anything because it just felt like there's nowhere to fit anything in.
Yeah.
So that definitely feels a lot better with simplifying it into like it's just this small amount of time, you know, we'll make it work.
Yeah. And I love that you're keeping it so flexible because I think some days you might be 5 to 10 minutes and that's all the energy you have and that's all the focus she has. And
Yeah.
other days you might be there for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and it might be way longer. It might be something you're both really engaged in, and the other stuff can wait that day, and that's okay
Yeah.
in either direction, right? Like, I just love that you're keeping it fluid and there's structure, but you're totally letting it come day by day.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because honestly, with kids, it's like there's no other way to do
It's so true.
that. Because their emotions and things they want are like change day by day.
Yeah, 100%. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me. It was so fun to chat with you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, I hope you loved this peek into coaching and resonated with something we talked about. I know so many of these feelings of feeling like you're not enough and trying to create a schedule and help your kids out and just all these things are things we all feel as moms, and that there's so much more in our control than sometimes we feel like there is. If you're wanting more of this, if you want to experience coaching for yourself, the reset doors are open now. I want to help you regulate your nervous system and start thinking intentionally so that you have the space to be able to connect with your kids, so that you're not so focused on all the tasks, the jobs you have to do, the things that have to be done, and the stress that is on you that takes up so much of your mental space. And inhibits connection with your kids, with your spouse, with the people around you. I want you to deepen that connection, and that is what we're going to help you do in 30 days. It's going to be daily 5 to 10 minute things that are seriously going to change everything, not just for you, to help you know how to get out of stress, whether that looks like yelling at your kids or numbing by scrolling social media or not even knowing what your needs and wants are. We're going to help you get out of that, and we're going to help you know how to help your kids do the same. You're going to know how to handle those big toddler tantrums, and you're going to know how to handle it for yourself so it stops becoming so triggering and the thing that seems to pivot the rest of your day. So if you're interested, the link is in the show notes. If you have any questions, please message me on Instagram at the Missy Allred, and I will talk to you next week.
Thanks for joining me on this week's episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, so message me on Instagram at the Missy Allred. There is always room in our village, so if you enjoyed it, will you please send it to a friend or leave a rating and review? Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you next week.